In my world, air tells on you. You can hear a bad bearing in a rooftop unit from the parking lot if you've been doing HVAC long enough. You can smell a cracked heat exchanger before the CO sensor throws a tantrum. You can feel a system going out of balance when one room starts to sweat and the other starts to sulk. People notice when it's freezing or boiling. Nobody notices when the air is right. That's what I do. Keep things right so folks never think about it. I'm Marcus. I keep houses breathing in Houston where the sky sits on your shoulders 6 months out of the year. I've got two daughters. Lily is 10 and thinks the scoreboard is a moral instrument, and Zoe is 7 and thinks glitter is a constitutional right. 5 years ago, their mother, Andrea, packed a suitcase and a speech about finding the person I used to be and moved in with her high school forever, a man named Sean who pronounces entrepreneur like a job. She signed papers too. Gave up custody clean, said it was for the best. I didn't argue. I sent updated school pictures on holidays until she stopped answering. Then I stopped sending. I learned how to braid hair from YouTube and how to talk about feelings from Lily's guidance counselor. The house felt like work in August and church in December. It was ours. The day this story started, I was leaning against a cinder block wall in a middle school gym that smelled like rubber and ambition, watching Lily play defense with the concentration of a girl trying to make a force field with her mind. She reached for a ball she had no business stealing, got clipped, and hit the floor wrong. It wasn't a scream so much as a sound the mouth makes when it meets the world too fast. She looked down at her wrist like it had betrayed her. We did the dad-daughter ER shuffle. I've done twice now, once for Zoe's chin, once for Lily's toe. Grab the insurance cards from the glove box where I keep them in a Ziploc. Call my boss to say I'm dropping off the truck. Text my neighbor to let her know Zoe would be with Lily's teammates' parents until I could swap. Houston traffic played nice for once, like it knew better. The ER waiting room was doing its usual half ballet, half riot. A TV in the corner argued about sports no one in the room was playing. A toddler banged a plastic truck against a chair with the focus of a monk. The triage nurse wore the expression of a woman who has heard every version of it, started hurting yesterday, and still says, "I'm sorry," like she means it. Lily's wrist was already a fat, pale question mark. They put us in a bay fast because kids get a lane. The charge nurse gave Lily a sling, gave me a clipboard, gave our lives a number. An X-ray tech with a sleeve tattoo and the voice of a children's librarian told Lily she was a champ and told me it looked like a buckle fracture, the kind that heals like kids do, too fast for adults to believe in. I kissed Lily's hair, which smelled like gym and shampoo, and thought about scheduling and dinner and the way a house gets weird when the routine tilts. We were waiting for the PA to come tell us formal words for good news within bad when I heard my name spoken in a voice that used to live in my kitchen. Marcus. The room rearranged. It's a thing that happens when an old life walks into a new one without knocking. Andrea stood just outside the curtain with a little boy on her hip, 3 a day, hair in his eyes, the wary look kids get when they've learned grown-ups can be weather. She was thinner, or maybe just carved sharper by choices. Her makeup could have gone to a job interview or a funeral. The boy had one fist tucked into the collar of her shirt like he'd grown up holding on. "Can we not do this here?" I said, calm because Lily was watching my face like a mirror. I stepped into the hallway, let the curtain fall behind me, put my body between my daughter and the past. Andrea didn't lower her voice. Some people confuse volume with proof. "We have to do it here," she said, "because this is an emergency. This," she nudged the boy with her hip like he was a paragraph break, "is your son." The hallway did that thing where it gets quiet, the way a gym gets quiet when a ball hangs on the rim. The tech at the nurse's station looked down at her keyboard and then up at me in the same motion, like she was checking whether humanity was going to pass today's test. A man with a bandaged hand stopped scrolling his phone. Somewhere, a monitor beeped out of rhythm. "I don't have a son," I said, not an argument, an inventory. "You do," Andrea said, lips wobbling in the exact way lips wobble when they'd like to wobble into an easier story. Remember Thanksgiving, 2021, your parents' place. She made a gesture like a woman plucking an excuse out of the air. "We saw each other, we talked, it was, you know." "We did not," I said. "I haven't seen you since you left. You signed away custody and you blocked my number when I sent pictures of the girl's first day of school. You chose that. You don't get to choose today." She flicked her eyes toward the bay where Lily was breathing carefully and then back to me, calculating angles. "Marcus, I need help. He's 3. Sean, he's gone. Money's tight. This is God bringing us to the same place." "God didn't fill out the triage paperwork," I said. "A coach did, and a nurse, and my daughter who just broke her wrist." The boy, he had that fearless toddler curiosity, reached for my HVAC shirt logo like the blue snowflake on my chest could cool the room. I looked at him. I didn't hate him. That would have been easier. A social worker appeared the way good ones do, out of the wall, as if summoned by the combination of voices and words you aren't supposed to say loud on a weekday. She introduced herself. Mia, badge, calm. "Is this a moment where we'd like to step into a quiet room?" she asked, like she was offering a chair. "Yeah," I said. "Please." I turned to Andrea. "We're going to do this the right way. No scenes, no declarations, no God told me. Chain of custody testing, through counsel." Andrea's eyes filled too fast to be real. "I knew you'd make this legal," she said. "You always make everything into paperwork. What about feelings? What about doing the right thing because it's right?" "The right thing starts with truth," I said. "Truth goes on paper." Mia led us into a small consult room with 2 chairs and a box of tissues that looked like it needed one. She gave us both water and the kind of words that turn temperature down. "Marcus, if you'd like, we can note in the ER incident report that an individual presented making a paternity claim while you and your minor child were present. That way, if you need documentation later, the encounter is in the record without opinion." "Yes," I said. "Please include that I requested no contact take place in the pediatric area and that I requested all communication go through attorneys." Andrea made a sound that wanted to be a laugh and ended up a cough. "Do you hear yourself?" she said to Mia. "Not me. He's going to lawyer me in front of my son." Mia didn't flinch. "Ma'am, everyone in this building has emergencies. We take care of the medical ones first, and we recommend outside process for the rest." I keep my phone on battery saver and my mouth online. I do not raise my voice in hospitals. I don't make nurses' days harder. I texted my lawyer, a straightforward man who never says sir unless he's about to make you sign something. Paternity claim made in ER by Andrea M. Request chain of custody test. He replied in under 2 minutes. "Do not engage. I'll initiate. Document everything." Document everything has kept me sane more than once. Voice memos is there for a reason. "Mia," I said, "is it okay if I make an audio note to myself of what happened with date and time?" "It's your phone," she said. "Just don't record staff without consent." I opened the app and spoke like I was anchoring the 6 o'clock news. April 12th, 5:26 p.m., Memorial ER Pediatric Wing. Andrea Miles presented with a male child, approximately 3. Made public claim child is mine. I declined to discuss. Requested chain of custody paternity test via attorney. Social worker Mia present. Lily Hale, age 10, being treated for wrist injury. End note. Andrea rolled her eyes. "You always did love a script," she muttered. "Scripts keep things from going off the rails," I said. We stepped back into the bay. Lily looked at me with that look kids get when they sense a storm. "Everything okay?" she asked, like she was the one responsible for keeping me upright. "Everything is handled," I said, which is not the same thing as okay. The PA popped in with the film. "Buckle fracture," she said, smiling at Lily like they shared a secret. "No cast today. Sugar tong splint for a few weeks. You'll be queen of the Sharpie signatures by bedtime." Lily grinned, the kind of brave that makes a man promise things he can actually deliver. While the nurse wrapped Lily's arm, a different nurse, a charge nurse with the calm of a harbor, touched my elbow. "Dad," she said quietly and nodded toward her station. I followed. She lowered her voice under the hum of the monitors. "Just so you're aware, your mom is listed here as primary emergency contact. That's common, but also there's an entry from earlier today adding Andrea Miles as parent guardian, alternate. It's unusual to see that without a matching legal doc. Cold isn't a temperature in Houston most days, but I felt it run down my back like a bad draft. Earlier today," I said carefully. "Who added it?" She flipped a screen. "It pulls from your insurance portal's delegated contact list. It shows as updated by Carol Hale authorized users at 2008 p.m. 2008 p.m.? I had been on a roof in Pasadena at 2008 p.m., arguing with a condenser fan that thought it was above consequences. My mother had been updating my children's medical contacts like she was RSVPing to a BBQ. Can you note in the record that I did not authorize that change and that I request it be removed pending documentation?" I asked. "Already did," she said. "We'll revert to the last legal custody order and your listed alternates. I'm also putting a staff note, no additions by anyone other than you without ID and documentation." "Thank you," I said, and meant it in a way I don't usually mean transactional gratitude. Lily got her splint. Zoe got a lollipop on principle when we swung by to pick her up. Andrea sat in the waiting room holding the boy, staring at the TV like it might hand her a different life if she squinted. She looked at me when we passed. "You're really going to be this man," she said. "I'm going to be the man our girls need," I said, "and the man that boy deserves, which is someone who won't lie to him with my face." At home, I put the girls on the couch with a movie, an ice cream, and a promise I was 10 feet away. Then I opened my laptop and logged into the insurance portal. I give my mother a long leash on the logistical parts of our life because she picks the girls up from school when a compressor decides to quit at 4:30 and because she remembers dentist appointments without anger. Delegated access makes a lot of sense until it doesn't. There it was. Activity log, user, Carol Hale, authorized, accessed, family profile, 2007 p.m. Changes, added Andrea Miles as alternate parent guardian contact allowed. There was a second line that made bile rise, emergency backup, Andrea M. relationship, mother. The IP address was my parents' house. The system had sent a notification to my old Hotmail. I never check anymore. That's on me. Another line showed email verification completed via code sent to carol.hale, which explained how she got around not being me. She hadn't hacked, she'd borrowed. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother with the exact tone mothers use when they know they are caught and want you to agree. "You caught them gently. We just wanted to help. Kids need a mother in their chart." Andrea is trying. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. I scrolled my text thread with her. "A week ago, can I pick up Lily at 2 on Thursday? 2 days ago, I left a casserole in the freezer." The sudden leap from green beans to guardianship made my chest tight. I called. She picked up on the second ring, breathless like she'd run from the kitchen to the phone in 1989. "Marcus," she said, "how's my girl? How's the wrist? I made—" "Mom," I said, and my voice had the kind of flat you use when a thermostat's lying. "You added Andrea to the girl's charts. You added her to my insurance log, without asking me." There was a pause, and then the sound of my father, Dennis, in the background, a steady rumble like a generator. "We thought—" she began. "You didn't think," I said. "You decided. There's a difference, and you did it the same day Andrea walked into an ER and announced a child was mine." "That's a sign," she said. "God!" "Do not bring God into a login form," I said. "This isn't church. This is custody. This is safety. This is you deciding to be in charge of the one thing I've done right for 5 years." My father got on the line, the way men do when they want to bring a wrench to a feelings problem. "Son," he said, "calm down. Your mother was trying to put a little order in." "There's order," I said, "and there's sabotage." My thumb moved on its own. I opened voice memos and hit record. "It's April 12th, 8003 p.m., I said out loud, because sometimes saying the date is how you take ownership of it. "Call with my parents regarding unauthorized changes to the girl's medical emergency contacts." "Are you recording us?" my mother asked, horror and manners doing battle in her mouth. "Yes," I said, "because every time I try to tell you where the line is, you act like the line is something I made up to hurt you. I'm done with that. We're going to speak like adults in a world with consequences." "We were helping," she said again, as if repetition could turn a feeling into a fact. "Andrea called me. She said she's trying to be present. She asked how to be listed in case of something urgent." "She called you," I repeated. "Not me." The man raising her children. "She's their mother," my mother said, like she was saying the alphabet. "And Lily asked about her the other day." "She did, Marcus. We want to make room for love." "Love doesn't use other people's passwords," I said. "Love doesn't show up at a child's hospital bed with a stranger kid and a headline. Love doesn't get added to forms because grandparents are bored with the rules." My father tried another angle. "Boys need dads," he said. "Maybe that boy is—" "Not my son," I said. "But if he were, he deserves a father who would go to court and go to counseling and not lie in a hallway to get a wallet." I'm not proud of what I said next, but I'm not sorry either. "You know why Andrea called you and not me? Because she knows you think chaos is romance if it involves the word mother." Silence. Then my mother cried, small and mean. "You don't talk to me like that," she said. "I don't let you walk me like that," I said. "Those days are over." I ended the call before we could burrow into the old trenches. I saved the audio and labeled it Parents Emergency Contact Admission. My lawyer texted a time for the paternity swabs, Friday morning, chain of custody lab off 59, and Kirby. He'd handle the paperwork. My job was to show up with cheeks and patience. I tucked the girls in late. Lily asked if she could sign her own splint first. Zoe tucked her stuffed koala into Lily's elbow like a nurse. I told them 2 stories, one about a dog who preferred the air vent to the dog bed, and one about a dragon who learned that her biggest fire didn't always need to be used. After they fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with the lights low and stared at the printout from the ER that Mia had slipped me. Incident report, parent reports interruption by former partner claiming paternity of unrelated child. Parent requests documentation of encounter and limits on contact in pediatric area. It was a paragraph that felt like a fence. I didn't sleep much. What I did do was make a list, because lists are the only way I know to turn fog into air. First, the test. Second, revoke my parents' access to anything with an edit button. Third, a letter to the hospital and pediatrician documenting the contact nonsense and instructing that all changes to contacts go through me and me only. Fourth, a conversation with the girl's therapist. Yes, we have one, because I learned the hard way that kids don't have to be strong, they have to be heard. Fifth, locks on the social parts of my life. No photo tags, no look who's back, no we're trying. Morning came like a compromise. I dropped Zoe at school with a kiss and a story about how the human body heals even when we're not watching. I took Lily to the lab because she wanted to know what a cheek swab was, and because the woman who raised me would never forgive me if I didn't ask the 10-year-old whether she preferred to go to a test or to math. We did both. The lab was cold and efficient. Our attorney met us in the lobby with a nod that said, "This is ugly and necessary." Andrea was 10 minutes late and dressed like contrition. She brought the boy, who stared at the fish in the wall tank and ignored the adults arguing about blood that had nothing to do with him. The tech was kind. She explained every step. She labeled tubes with the kind of care that makes you believe in bureaucracy again. Chain of custody means somebody you've never met treats your life like it matters. I don't take that lightly. When it was my turn to sit in the chair, I felt weirdly grateful for the scratchy cotton and the clean room smell. The tech told me I'd get results in 3 to 5 business days, which is the kind of sentence that turns minutes into gravel. In the parking lot, Andrea tried for old patterns. "If he is," she said, soft and urgent, letting the pronouns do all the work, "we can." "If," I said, and put my hand up. "If he is, we do this right. If he's not, we do this right. Either way, you don't get to detonate my kids' lives in a waiting room." She nodded, then said, "Sean's not," and trailed off like the ellipsis might do the rest of the sentence's labor. I didn't ask. Pity is an expensive habit. I drove home on autopilot and stopped 2 blocks from the house because my phone hummed with a new email. "Insurance portal, your contact list has been updated." My jaw tightened because I'd just spent an hour removing my mother's access entirely. I tapped the email with the kind of attention you give to rattlesnakes and expired milk. "Change requested by user, Dennis." Hail, it wasn't my mother this time. It was my father. He tried to flip the switch she couldn't reach anymore. I pulled over under a live oak and put my head on the steering wheel. I thought about thermostats and ducts and how you can balance a system perfectly and still have one room that resists. I thought about my dad teaching me to change oil at 11 and teaching me to hold my tongue at 13 and how neither of those skills had prepared me for this. Then I did what I do when a system won't hold, shut it down and start over, zone by zone. I called my father. He answered with his mechanic voice, the one he uses on customers and cops. "Yeah." "You tried to add Andrea back," I said. "We just think," he started. "We are done with, we think," I said. "From here on, we respect." He exhaled, heavy. "You're making this hard, son." "No," I said. "I'm making it safe. There's a difference." I opened voice memos and hit record again. April 13th, 11:22 a.m. Call with Dennis Hale regarding attempted unauthorized contact changes. He confirms intent. I didn't even care if it ever saw a courtroom. I needed the version of me who forgets to hear the version of me who remembers. When I got home, the girls were drawing on Lily's splint and arguing about whether turtles can be superheroes. I stood in the doorway a minute and let the sound fix me. Then, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. "Hospital main line," I picked up. "Mr. Hale, this is Denise from patient registration." Her voice was kind and tired, the default setting for people who spend their days catching other people's debris. "I wanted to let you know we've removed the added contact and flagged your account for in-person changes only. There's a note here. Also," she hesitated, "I'm not trying to stir anything, but the note says mother called earlier stating she is the real primary. We advised her that legal custodianship is per the court order on file." Thank you, I said. Please add a note that any calls from Andrea or my mother about this should be referred back to me or to council, and ask them kindly not to call staff to try to override. Already did, Denise said, and for what it's worth, you were very calm yesterday. That helps us help you. I hung up and stared at the smudge on the wall next to the thermostat from where the girls' hands always land when they turn the AC up because hot is an emergency. I wiped it with my sleeve and thought, not for the first time in 2 days, that evidence is air and lies are heat. You can't see either until you feel them. Then it's all you feel. That night, because I'm done being the man who lets Storms write his calendar, I drove to my parents' house. I didn't tell the girls. I didn't tell my mother. I set my phone to record and slid it into my shirt pocket because my hands were going to be full of trying not to scream. My father opened the door with the look of a man who can fix carburetors and has no idea how to tune a relationship. We made a mistake, he said preemptively, but we can't just... You can apologize without a but, I said. Try it. He didn't. My mother came in from the kitchen carrying a calendar like a shield. I made a schedule, she said, voice bright and brittle, for when Andrea could. I held up my hand. No more plans, no more codes, no more calendars where my signature is assumed. Sit down. They sat because I'm their son and because something in my face told them I'd found the breaker. I pressed my thumb into the phone in my pocket to make sure the red line was creeping across the screen. Here's what's going to happen, I said, and I laid it out in the same tone I use with general contractors who think physics is optional. There will be a paternity result in a few days. If he's mine, I will do the right thing loudly. If he's not, Andrea doesn't come within a county of my girls unless a court and a counselor say it's a good idea. You don't add names to forms. You don't call hospitals. You don't invite drama into rooms where children are learning to trust doorways. My mother's mouth trembled again, but not with tears. We were only trying to help, she whispered, like a prayer that used to work. Then help the way I ask you to, I said, not the way you wish the world was. My father surprised me. He put his elbows on his knees and looked at the carpet like he was about to confess to theft, and in a way, he was. I don't know how to be a granddad without a mom in the picture, he said quietly. My dad wasn't there. I guess I've been trying to build a scene I didn't get. I felt something in my chest loosen a millimeter. That's honest, I said. Now build the scene we actually have. He nodded once, like a man signing for a delivery he didn't order but knows he has to bring inside. When I left, my mother followed me to the porch. If the test says, she began. If, I said, if it says he's mine, you can make me a casserole and tell me I'm a good man. If it says he's not, you can still make a casserole and tell me I'm a good man. That's your whole job. She almost smiled. The porch light hummed. A mosquito did that lazy circle it does before you remember you live in Houston and go find the spray. I got in my truck and sat for a minute, voice memo still running, the red line longer than most of my patience. On the drive home, a thought I didn't like occurred to me, that someday I might be on the other end of a hard line, that Lily or Zoe will draw a boundary around their own lives and I'll want to redraw it because I'll mistake proximity for love. I wrote it down at a stop sign so I couldn't pretend I'd never thought it. Remember that love isn't a key, it's a code you type in when you're invited. When I got home, the girls were asleep in a tangle of blankets and stuffed animals that would make a fire marshal sigh. I kissed their foreheads and stood in the dark kitchen and waited for the part of my brain that wanted immediate justice to shut up. It didn't, but it did get bored enough to let me sleep. The lab email didn't land the next morning, or the next. It waited until a lunch break 3 days later while I was sitting on the tailgate of my truck behind a Randall's, eating a sandwich that had more mustard than mercy. The subject line was as boring as a tax form, results available. I stared at it until the screen dimmed and came back on. I thought about walking away from the truck and never coming back. Then I thought about Lily's careful breath the night she fell asleep with a new splint and Zoe's koala tucked into the crook of her sister's arm like it had a job. I tapped. 2 lines, black on white, the kind of boring that cuts deepest. Probability of paternity, 0.0%. Chain of custody confirmed. I didn't make a sound. The parking lot went big and empty, the way Texas does at noon. A pallet of water bottles rattled on a cart somewhere behind the store. A guy whistled a tune he didn't love. I put the phone face down on the tailgate and watched the grain of the bed liner until the little white dots stopped dancing in my vision. I called my attorney first. Got it, I said. I figured, he said, calm like a level. I'll file the notice. We'll send Andrea a letter instructing her to cease contact with you and the girls. We'll also send your parents a formal revocation of consent and a demand they not present themselves as agents in any health or school contexts." "Good," I said. "Make it dry and mean." "Dry and clear," he corrected. "Mean is a hobby." Andrea called twice while I was still sitting there. I let it ring out. She texted a paragraph that read like a power outage. "I'm sorry. I just thought maybe Sean is gone. We could do this right. Family." I panicked. "Please, you help me." I took a screenshot. I didn't reply. I forwarded the number to my lawyer and the screenshot to the folder on my phone labeled Documents because I am, apparently, the kind of man who needs a folder for days like this. I went to the shop to grab a universal and a filter I didn't need because it was what my hands knew how to do. Then I drove home, parked, and sat with my girls on the floor eating grilled cheese like the body counts out loud when it's trying to remember what normal feels like. Lily asked nothing and everything. "Are we safe?" I said yes, and this time the word didn't feel like a guess. The letters went out the next morning. My attorney's courier did his little ballet, one to Andrea, one to my parents. The one to Andrea said what needed saying in very few nouns: cease and desist, no direct contact, all communications through counsel, all exchanges, if any, ever became relevant, in public places with a third party. The one to my parents looked like a user manual for boundaries: delegated access revoked, do not contact healthcare providers or schools on my behalf, do not add or modify emergency contacts, do not present Andrea as an authorized person, do not show up at my home or workplace unannounced, any future assistance will be by invitation only. I printed copies, put one on the fridge, one in the glove box, and one in the little metal box where I keep furnace panel screws and the girls' missing earrings, because that's where I keep small, important things I'd rather not lose. I wrote my own letter too, emailed to the hospital and both kids' clinics, not legal, just human and clear. It said, "Please note that on April 12, while my daughter was receiving care, a former partner entered the pediatric ER and made a public paternity claim. I requested and appreciate staff documenting and de-escalating. Going forward, no changes to contact should be accepted without my in-person ID. Anyone attempting to add Andrea Miles or my mother, Carol Hale, without my consent should be politely declined and referred to me. Thank you for helping me keep the room calm while we handle the rest in court." They wrote back like professionals do, acknowledged. Flags updated. "We appreciate your clarity." I changed every password. Insurance, patient portals, school, email, the smart thermostat, the doorbell cam, two-factor on everything. New recovery email, new rule in the house. A phone number doesn't make a person safe. A last name doesn't either. Andrea tried one more time to do it the old way. 2 days after the letter, she showed up where I was working. Rooftop unit over a supermarket off Beechnut because too many people think roofs are private. I only saw her because I glanced down through a gap in the parapet and caught a flash of familiar hair arguing with customer service. I stayed on the roof. I called the store's number and asked for security. "This is Marcus," I said when he picked up. "Your RTU contractor. My ex is at your desk causing a scene. I've got a no-contact letter on file. Can you ask her to leave?" "Copy," he said, bored like only a man who's seen 100 public meltdowns can be. "Stay where you are. We'll handle it." I watched from the edge because I'm human. 2 guards spoke to her gently, then more firmly, then guided her outside. She stared up at the sky like God was going to hand her a different script. The guards wrote an incident note, emailed it to me when I asked. I saved it to documents. I'm not stockpiling for a war. I'm building a fence you can see from the road. My mother did her version of public, which is to bring private to places where other people's patience keeps her safe. She came to my job site a week later, not the supermarket, this time a strip mall retrofit in Pearland. She walked onto the slab with a Tupperware of cookies like a bomb wrapped in plastic. "I want to see my granddaughters," she said, in the voice she uses when she thinks a woman behind a desk has misunderstood her values. "Not here," I said. "Not like this." She started to cry, then realized crying wasn't going to get her what she wanted, then got loud. "I raised you better than this," she said. "Family is family." "Family is not leverage," I said. "Go home, Mom." The GC waved his arms like a man trying to scare a bear. Security from the neighboring store walked her out. I entered it in the notebook I keep in the truck. Date, time, location, what was said, who witnessed. Then I called my dad and told him not to let her drive back to my site again, or I'd file a trespass with every store within a mile of my work. He said, "You're serious," like men say when they realize a line isn't moving. I said, "Yes," and the yes didn't even scratch. I sat the girls down on a Saturday morning in the living room, where the AC kicks just right at 9 in the summer, and told them the thing our therapist taught me to say. Simple, true, no daggers. "Your mom isn't evil," I said, "but she can be dangerous to our peace. Peace is something we protect, like we protect our bodies. So we're going to have rules to keep our house peaceful. That means sometimes adults won't get what they want. That's not about you. That's about safety." Zoe asked if dangerous meant bad. "It means unsafe for now," I said. "It means we don't open the door just because someone knocks. It means we don't change plans because someone cries." Lily looked me in the eye, the way she does when she thinks she might need to hold me up. "Do we have to forgive her?" "You don't have to do anything with your feelings you don't want to," I said. "You do have to talk about them. You do have to keep your body and your room safe. The rest, we'll do together in the time it takes." We went to therapy because we go to therapy. The girls' counselor, Tasha, has a room full of toys and a voice like the cool side of a pillow. She drew circles with the girls. One circle labeled ours, one hers, one dad's. She gave them dry erase markers and let them choose what went in each. In ours, they wrote bedtime, pancakes, movie night, being on time, never yelling. In hers, they put surprises, crying in public, leaving. In dad's, they wrote lists, tools, don't touch the thermostat. We laughed. We were allowed. She looked at me and nodded. "Write it down at home," she said. "Put it on the fridge. Let them see the rules exist where hands can reach them." I wrote another letter, this one to the school, not a manifesto, a memo. "If Andrea Miles appears, please call me immediately and the SRO if she refuses to leave. She is not authorized for pickup. My parents are not authorized to change that fact. This is not a spite thing. This is a safety thing." The principal responded within an hour. "Understood. Noted in SIS. Staff informed. I took donuts to the office like gratitude can be edible." I also did the unglamorous work, blocked numbers, filtered emails, turned off message requests, told my neighbors the basics in case a woman with tears shows up asking for a phone. I signed up for a P.O. box so I'd stop coming home to envelopes that made my heart do weird tricks. I bought a new lock set for the back door because sometimes you need to hold a wrench to feel like you're the kind of man who holds things together. When the court date came for the protective order, the gallery was mostly empty. Andrea didn't show, her lawyer did. Mine spoke like he always does, dry and clear. The judge didn't moralize. She wrote, she stamped, she told me to breathe. The order covered our house, the girls' school, my workplace, contact only through counsel, no social media fishing expeditions, no accidental run-ins at the places I've been going on Tuesdays for 10 years. It wasn't vengeance. It was a map with a legend. It was a map with a legend. We moved too, not far, 2 streets over, new rental, smaller yard, better bones. It wasn't the order that made me, it was the way the girls started flinching when the doorbell rang. I told them the truth. This new house comes with new rules. Rule 1, no surprises. Text before you come over. Rule 2, if your name is not on the lease or the calendar, you knock like a neighbor and you leave like one if we say no. I told my parents the same thing. If you want to see the girls, I said, you ask. If I say not today, you say okay. That's the whole script. My dad said okay. My mom said she'd try, which is not a yes, but it's not a door slamming either. Being the bad guy for the right reasons is a muscle I didn't know I had. It shakes the first few reps. Then it gets steadier. I stopped explaining my boundaries like they were experimental art and started stating them like stamped ductwork. Parents who blow through lines don't need a theology. They need a barrier they can see without squinting. Work, stayed, work. Units still fail on Fridays. Customers still think it made a sound, is a diagnostic. Lily learned to write with her left hand until the splint came off. Zoe decided she's an inventor and made a cardboard privacy alarm for her bedroom door that's basically a bell and some string, but makes her feel like a CEO. We ate spaghetti on Wednesdays and tacos on Mondays and let life take back the rhythm. 2 months later, my mom stood on my porch at a civilized hour with her hands in front of her like she was approaching a strange dog. She asked if she could talk. I set my phone face down on the table next to the door and stepped outside. She said she was sorry without a comma. She said she'd never meant to hand us a grenade and call it love. She said she and my dad had found a couples counselor at church who didn't care whose side anyone was on and did care about whether the house was on fire. She did not ask for a tour of the new place. She did not ask for a tour of the new place. She did not cry. She handed me a paper grocery sack. "There's nothing that bites in here," she said. Inside were 2 things, a casserole and a spiral notebook. On the first page, in her neat script, it said, "Things I will ask before I act." The first three items: 1. Is this my job? 2. Did Marcus ask? 3. Will this keep the girl's peace? I didn't hug her. I didn't slam the door. We stood there nodding like two people who had finally agreed on the same temperature. That's the arc, I guess, if you need to name it. I used to be the guy who absorbed chaos for peace. Now I'm the guy who demands peace at the cost of being called difficult. Nobody throws you a parade for the second one, but your house breathes better. If you've never been in an ER with a broken-boned kid while a past life tries to deliver another, you should know this. You're allowed to insist on process when other people want theater. You're allowed to ask a social worker to write it down. You're allowed to demand chain of custody tests and incident reports and to say, "We'll communicate through counsel," until your mouth knows the shape better than your pride. You're allowed to tell your parents that their idea of help is something the rest of us call sabotage. You're allowed to be boring. Boring wins. Would you, in that waiting room, insist on official tests and protocols when an ex tries to turn your life into a public plot twist? How would you handle it, de-escalate, lawyer up, or walk away? Tell me where you draw the line between keeping the peace and protecting it. If this story spoke to you, drop a comment, hit like so, it finds the next dad who needs it, and subscribe. Next up, I'm sharing the checklist I keep in my glove box for ER surprises.